Welcome back to Story Hustler, Murder, Mayhem, PTSD. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Mike.
Like and subscribe. And this is the wrap-up of our second season.
Yeah, this is a bittersweet moment, and I'm not going to lie, but let's talk about that at the end of the show, or I'll start crying and get all mushy.
Don't need all that.
Right off the top. Probably not a good. I say this every time ever since we launched our second season, and it's abbreviated, but with only 5, this is going to be our 5th episode. I say that we have so much to talk about.
We always do.
But
the world of true crime is everything.
Well, and it's funny, it's taken us back to one of the stories that we have known longer and better than anything else, the Warren Jeffs.
Good old FLDS folk.
Yeah, and new developments. But let's start with the headline.
Samuel Bateman. That's a name that everyone should be aware of.
Yeah, and they are getting that now because he's getting a lot of, I would say, richly deserved attention. 46-year-old Samuel Bateman, a man that we came to know long before he was in the headlines.
In a very interesting way. Sadly, I was not there that day.
Yeah, well, your brother and his wife joined me that day. But the bottom line is, a guy named Samuel Bateman was busted a week ago by FBI agents at his home in Colorado City, Short Creek, the Hilldale area, up on the Arizona Strip. Why did FBI agents raid his home? Well, there's lots of suspicions, and we have come to know a great deal about Sam Bateman. The arrest by the feds last week was actually the second time
that he's had a run-in with the cops.
Well, yeah, and I can tell you from what I have learned that it sounds to me like Sam has been sort of hot for quite a long time and under scrutiny of law enforcement, shall we say. And
as he should be.
We're throwing out a lot of tidbits here.
Let's get into the heart of the story. Samuel Bateman was basically this, I would say, wannabe prophet.
Well, he's sort of a renegade. I've seen these guys before. Again, we had an encounter. I had an encounter, several encounters with Sam Bateman about 9 months ago. Utterly unsolicited on my part, this guy started basically reaching out to me and to almost to the extent of sort of stalking me, insisting that we have a meeting. And this was all around the holidays of this year.
And not only did he want to meet you, but he wanted to meet the Queen of England. Yeah. Rest in peace, Lizzie.
Yeah, and again, when I talked to him, a guy called me out of the blue just about 2 weeks before Christmas. We should probably just hit the story. Calls me out of the blue. I'm here at my home. My family is in town for the holidays, or coming into town for the holidays. My mind is on the holidays. Get a phone call, see the area code on my cell phone, realize that it's coming from the crick. These are the kind of
hesitant to answer.
Well, it should, no resentment, but it's just that I felt like that's a part of my life, and that I really sort of wanted behind me. But this year has brought it all back with that documentary. But again, just before Christmas, I get a series of phone calls from a man. He calls he says, "Hi, this is Samuel Bateman." Calls me out of the blue.
I wonder how you got your number.
It's out there, dude. I've been in the public eye for a long time, so not hard to find. So Sam calls me, tells me he's Samuel Bateman. I wouldn't know him if he was sitting next to me in a lunch counter, but a series of phone calls during which he tells me he has had some sort of revelation that he needs to meet Mike Watkiss and
the Queen of England.
The Queen of England.
No offense, but I don't think I'm not making.
You can't really make this stuff up, folks. So again, calling out of the blue, caller says hi.
Of all the people in the world, you're just such an interesting two to want to meet.
This is, so anyhow, I was sort of intrigued by this barrage of phone calls from this guy insisting that he had to meet me. He also told me during these phone calls that he was the owner of 2 Bentleys, 2 Range Rovers, an airplane, told me he was a pilot, and an online consultant. So he wanted me to be
But he
aware.
was busted in a Denali, people, not a Bentley.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, that's true. So he has a lot of vehicles. Denali's are pretty nice.
Not to snub Denali's, but
Right.
it's over here talking about Range Rovers and Bentleys, and the man was busted in a Denali.
So Sam Bateman starts calling me around Christmas, insisting on meeting me. My reaction is, I'm not at all interested, bud. But thanks for
Well, also
asking.
because you have a hit out on you from his profit, so who knows if he was going to go do the Lord's work.
Yeah, and during the course of our discussions, I asked Sam, "Are you a member of the FLDS Church?" And he told me yes, and said a follower of Warren Jeffs, and he said yes, and I said, "You are aware, as you're asking me to meet, that your prophet, I think, still has a hit out on me." And so how do I know you're not coming down to do the prophets at Little Aaron? And, oh, no, he tells me that's not the case. It gives me sort of a good old boy, oh, shucks, that I don't know anything about that. After the fourth or fifth phone call of him to me, really insisting, and I'm telling him I never go up to the creek, he responds immediately telling me, oh, well, I come down to Phoenix all the time. So after delaying and deferring,
There was no getting away from
I
it.
sort of thought this guy's not going to take no for an answer, and I probably, at this point, I'm now intrigued and a little irritated, but I'm thinking maybe I ought to get eyes on this guy who seems so desperate to meet me. I have written extensively about this on my Facebook page, wanting to share whatever insights.
We'll actually add that into the comments.
We'll
section
add
too.
that into the
So,
comments.
Just a little excerpt of all the details in case we missed something.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Because we like to ramble on the show.
Yes, we do. But so Sam insists on meeting me, tells me he will come down to Phoenix and make it easy. And finally I said, if you're coming down to Phoenix next time in the near foreseeable future, give me a ring. If I'm not busy, maybe we'll rendezvous. I thought better of inviting Sam to my home, so we ultimately arranged to meet in a park not far from us. It's now 2 days after Christmas, and he started calling me 2 weeks before that. So it was this long buildup with me trying to keep this guy at bay. 'Cause, again, I don't know him, and I'm just really not interested in going back to that chapter of my life. We arrange for a meeting. I take your brother and Sarah, his wife, down with me, just thinking that I'd like somebody to record this because I think it may be weird. I go down and Sam is there and he's telling me we're waiting for more people. And over the course of the next 20 minutes, 3, 4, 5 vehicles pull into the parking lot, and a whole slew of polygamy, classic FLDS dressed
Pastel
women
dresses,
and girls get out of these
fluffed
vans.
hairstyle.
And it became clear that Sam's desire to meet me is to have his ladies, as he called them. And again, these are women ranging in age from, I guess, middle age all the way down to infants and, young girls and several holding small children.
Most of them look underage, holding babies that are probably his. So.
And we posted one shot obscuring the faces of Sam and his entourage on the Facebook site because we've obscured the faces because it's now fairly clear to me that there may well be some alleged victims.
Looking at that picture, most of them looked like they were probably 15.
So it's not just me meeting some guy in a parking lot who's weird and wants to meet me and shake my hand. He brings out more than 2 dozen women and children that really refers to as his ladies. And they then gather under one of the little houses, little huts, casitas in the park around some picnic tables. And these women and girls sing me 2 FLDS hymns. They were lovely. They were so well done. I just stood there. And this is in a Phoenix park, 2 dozen FLDS clad women around picnic tables singing these beautiful hymns.
Hey, if the Mormons can do anything right, they got the music down.
Well, the Tabernacle Choir is certainly an indication. Yeah, they take their singing very seriously, and these women and girls were sang beautifully. Beautiful harmonies, and it really was wonderful to hear them sing. but it was
If
also.
you didn't have the background of the story, it would have just been a lovely concert.
that's as I'm watching this unfold, and again, this is sort of this guy's show. I had no idea what I was getting
Hindsight
into.
2020.
Well, it became clear to me that even when we got down there, I reminded saying, you do understand that the guy you're insisting on meeting had a hand in putting Warren Jeffs behind bars for raping a 12-year-old girl, and has a hit out on him. Why is it that you want to meet a wicked old man like me who
wanted to proselytize you?
I
thought if anyone could save you,
he could. Well, whatever. So we insist on the meeting. It's basically full of small talk until he assembles his family. His ladies, as he referred to. They sing 2 hymns. We sort of say our goodbyes and get in our trucks and our vehicles and head home. In the immediate after that, Matt, I got a real education on Sam Bateman. I still have some pretty good sources, even though I'm retired all these years. And it became clear to me that this guy, this flamboyant guy boasting of Bentleys and then basically trotting his ladies out to sing me songs. Why again, I don't know. It was clear that he was setting off red flags for a lot of people, because I heard from those people after they became aware.
That's so weird.
And I became aware that he was already in sort of the crosshairs of law enforcement.
Yeah.
And this is back in January.
January.
It was my feeling that, when I heard that was happening, I thought, I'm going to pull all my info on this guy and whatever insights I have in him, and certainly the pictures. Want to pull it back, let law enforcement do their thing, because the last thing I want to do is spook him on the internet or something. And then months pass. The Netflix thing drops, renews the interest in all this story.
Warren drops some revelations,
and then we get a call about an abducted,
the young 17-year-old that was abducted.
And this is all within the time frame that we've been doing these podcasts.
You didn't want to get sucked back in, but boy, did you get sucked back in.
Yeah, well, I was hoping that the Netflix thing was sort of my historical retrospect. I went all in with those guys. They did a long interview. They used much of my work. But, for me, that's it. And now it goes on. Some of these guys can cover it. But immediately
we were hoping there was nothing else to cover.
Right. I mean,
we were hoping that was that. The prophet's in jail.
And that's what we talked our first 2 episodes of our new season with our new set. We reviewed Keep Sweet. But right after we finished that second episode, I get a phone call from Ruth Stubbs, our old friend who was one of the women who got out early as a teenager many years ago. She's now sort of a crusader. And she tells me that friends of hers, adult friends of hers, have had their 17-year-old daughter abducted by FLDS faithful.
By her sisters.
Back into the church, right at the time that Warren puts out this ominous revelation saying the FLDS are back in the marrying business. We talk about all this in our previous episode. But there has just been this confluence. The Netflix thing, Sam Bateman approaching me 9 months ago, clearly, to me, with this flamboyant, boastful man who wanted to sort of trot out his family to impress. It was as creepy then. It's creepier now that we know that Sam has been arrested. And I'm hoping
is a pedophile just like his prophet.
Well, I think we got to be careful because he's not facing those charges, but it's.
He was pulled over originally before the FBI raid last week that actually landed him in prison. He was pulled over on his way down, to Flagstaff?
No, when he was passing through Flag, he was probably heading down here.
Probably heading to Phoenix, in Flagstaff, and he had a trailer hitched to the back of his Denali. The whole car looked suspicious. He got pulled over, and it's just a normal traffic stop.
Well,
when they first pulled him over,
actually, no. The DPS had been tipped by people who had seen the vehicle at a gas station. They said there's something weird about this.
Yeah.
And then the DPS guy gets behind the Denali,
and they pull him over, and they see little kid's hands poking through the trailer.
Yeah, it was little fingers sticking out of this box trailer that was being towed by Sam's Denali. When they pull him over, a DPS guy pulls up close and apparently sees these little fingers coming out of the cracks of this box behind the and that's clearly enough. The guy lights him up. They pull Sam over, find Three little
Three girls between the ages of 11 and 14 inside this trailer.
with
Like just makeshift camping chairs, a couch, and this weird just bucket that they used as a toilet. Like, no air conditioning, no nothing. So just child endangerment right then and there without even like, why does this man have his
and
kids?
he gets popped for child endangerment, so he's got the three underage girls in basically this sort of, our cat is joining us here for the meows. But he gets busted, and they got these 11 to 14-year-old girls with a bucket as a toilet in this sort of horror,
and in Arizona, that's incredibly dangerous because we have such terrible bad drivers, but the weather.
And then they were coming down to Phoenix, and it was hot here. So, and in the cab of the Denali when he got, and again, this is late August.
Yeah.
And he got arrested by the feds at his home just last week. So there's an interesting time frame here. But and apparently he has two underage girls in the cab of the Denali and two women. So there's four women in the cab. Four women in the cab with Sam, and these three underage girls in the back. Cops obviously very suspicious about this. He's busted and taken to the Coconino County Jail on child endangerment charges, where Sam, I would say, again, given my interaction, maybe not the sharpest tool in the shed.
You don't say.
Makes a couple of phone calls from the jail.
From the jail phone, telling his followers to delete messages.
Encrypted messages that apparently they use.
Like, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to know that you shouldn't use a jail phone.
Probably recording that, yeah. And in
addition, shouldn't say delete things. You're suspicious.
Well, a little bit. So anyhow, he's in the can, facing these child endangerment, makes this ill-advised call to his followers saying, delete encrypted messages, and by the way, also get the girls' passports. Is that suspicious?
To the normal mind, yes. But
I think that bust, clearly that was not planned by law enforcement.
No, it seemed like they were a little rushed in that.
Well, and again, it is my contention that Sam has been under investigation for months, and I'm quite certain of that. And so they had their hand had to be sort of pushed because suddenly Sam has been arrested on this. He bails himself out. They got to think he's going to bolt because you get passports. That would be my instinct too. And so the FBI, and they now have the phone calls where he just handed them charges when he made that phone call because now he's tampering with evidence and attempting to destroy evidence. And so the phone call gave the feds charges that they could go and bust him with. I would, as you said, there may be trafficking charges. There may be underage, whatever charges.
I don't think it's really a maybe. I know we have to be cautious with what we say, but it's just like history tends to repeat itself. And certainly these are the stories that I have been told now that a handful of people know that I had some link with Sam. I've been told lots of stuff about it. I'm glad that the feds went after him. This is one of those cases where it didn't seem to need the media to go beat up on law enforcement to take the first step. They did it themselves. Seems like finally there's been some attention drawn to this community.
Yeah, and I'm glad it's at a federal level because all this is now crossing state lines. Sam wants passports. They can go down into Mexico. There's still a large component up in British Columbia. So yeah, there's lots of safe havens where they can take off to. So
he's taken one from old Warren's book, and that landed Warren in prison.
Yeah. Well, going on the run didn't work. It worked out pretty good for a while for Warren, but again, they just got lucky pulling him over. The officer Eddie Dutchover pulling him over outside Vegas all those many years. I'll never forget the guy's name. But this our period of time talking during our season again. 5 seasons of what we term as 5 episodes.
I wish we were at 5
seasons. Episodes for what I look at as our second season when you came home from.
It's our mini season.
It's our mini season, and it's sort of an abrupt halt because You still got to finish a couple things, so we can talk about that coming up. But
He's soft old man.
yeah, just to sort of wrap on. I do want to wrap on this. I got an insight that I didn't ask for, and really was sort of thrust, almost stalked upon me by this guy Sam Bateman back around Christmas. I didn't really know what it meant at the time. And, I have communicated with law enforcement. I think they must have plenty of evidence. But I've communicated with them, and they've communicated back with me, so I've made it known what happened with this guy. And now he's arrested. Netflix does this just epic sort of review of the rise and destruction that Warren Jeffs has wrought on people. Warren puts out his own revelation, unrelated to any of this, telling the FLDS faithful they're back in the marrying business, which means
they're like weeds; they just won't go away.
Well, and this is the truth, and I hope that as people focus on Bateman, as I say in that article I wrote on Facebook, I hope that he doesn't. This is really good that they're let these, because there's always these sort of independent guys that start doing their own wacky stuff. There was a guy named Orson William Black. Some years ago, and so these sort of renegade offshoots. But Warren, I think, is still calling the shots. He says that he's got a son now that he's sort of tapped with the magic wand, and they're going to start gathering up people together. To me, that gathering up means they're going to gather up women, they're going to gather up girls, and they're going to gather up the men who have something that Warren wants or needs,
and
like
if they don't,
money,
they're out.
Money or daughters, and those people will get back in because they're going to start doing these marriages again. And when they start doing these sort of industrial level plural marriages, they inevitably go to the very brink of being legal, and then beyond, because as I say, the gravitational pull for these guys is always to go.
Creeps. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss, but they're creeps.
Younger. Okay, but and so the sort of fundamentalist theology that allows a guy like Sam Bateman and Warren Jeffs to continue to operate is clearly out there thriving among some people.
You know what I find kind of interesting, and maybe it's not like this new thing, but social media has made it so much easier to like stay in touch with people around the world and kind of know of current events around the world. But like, I just watched this other Netflix doc on that woman, Lori Vallow.
Oh yeah.
That story that unfolded.
And that has some sort of weird religious.
It is. Well, it's the Mormons.
Theme.
It's actually, she was raised Mormon, so like the Mormons are getting some bad press this summer. But no, I just find it interesting that like all these individuals think they're these prophets. Like she thought she was sent from God, and like this guy thinks he's sent from God, and like I've had insecurity issues. I don't know where these people get these inflated egos to be like, I'm God sent and I'm here to do God's work, and I'm going to
a voice in their
tell
head.
you how to do it too.
I just don't think it's God Almighty.
I don't
that really is
understand.
interesting. Yeah, and that's a whole case that I know only through the headlines, but that's weird.
Horrible case.
And
but it's like these prophets that like, oh, God sent me. It's like, God didn't send you. God did not send you.
And again, in sort of justifying my little rant on Facebook about involving my interaction with Sam, is like what motivates these guys. I felt like that those were my impressions. And to the extent they're any valuable in understanding this guy, but it's one man's opinion, and I certainly was sort of set up to be they're taught to distrust me. Well, I've dealt with enough of those guys that I don't trust any of them. So I didn't really.
If you tell me you're religious, it's a red flag.
Well,
maybe that's a hot take.
But Sam certainly was, sort of an interesting personality in his own right, but had characteristics that I've seen through many of these sort of narcissistic, delusional, and at the end of the day, it's always about controlling women and sex. And this, these guys are so nut, and all of the fundamentalist nut jobs That really isn't the.
They're so anti-sex, but they are so sex crazed. It's always on their mind.
And it makes, and then you get that sort of kind of, control and restraints and taboos and insanity.
And now they're in our government deciding our laws and stripping away women of their rights.
It sounds like the Supreme Court, maybe. But, I think there's good examples of that. Anyhow,
humans need cults to follow, and we're seeing it now.
Well, there's a lot
of
there.
Why?
We do seem to be susceptible, lots of us.
But they're lions, not sheep.
Buying into cults, and I don't get that either. Anyhow, are we wrapped? I wanted to say one thing.
Yes.
We had talked about this at length during a couple of previous episodes of our show here about the 17-year-old girl who was basically Warren puts out this edict that they're going to start gathering people up, and suddenly the 17-year-old girl sort of vanishes. Sucked by FLDS family members and other FLDS people, and taken away from her parents, and her parents were distraught. We raised hell. We ran up and did some TV shows for our friends at Channel 3 and Channel 5, and the attention, and then getting a good lawyer. And with the very good work of the Colorado City Town Marshal's Office. People who know my history will be surprised I ever said that, but the Colorado City Town Marshal is a different agency since the feds took it away from Warren and company. Pretty good law enforcement agency, it seemed, and they helped this couple track their daughter down after the publicity, and so a lawyer intervened.
She's home now. We talked about that in the last episode.
Right, and I just want to get, I spoke to her father tonight.
Yes.
And told me that they're making progress. They're trying to overcome the wicked mind control, brainwashing that this child has been subjected to, and the family has just been so devastated and abused by Warren Jeff. We did stories on Channel 3 and Channel 5 on AZ Central website and I think they're really interesting about Warren, Helaman, and the new revelation. But now we have Sam Bateman, who's going to take up a lot of attention. I
hope he takes up a lot of attention. I hope people are listening. I hope there's a spotlight on this. We're all worried about pedophiles in the wrong places, it seems like, in this country.
But all my friends who in the media who sort of drop in and out of this story, they're going to focus on Sam. And I argue what Warren is doing with a much larger scale of people, is the thing that people cannot lose sight of. Mm-hmm. They're gathering up women and girls. Helaman is apparently going to start doing marriages. It means that underage marriages are probably going to occur, and now they're scattered all over. Cedar City. I continue to hear about a large concentration in Cedar City, Utah, and perhaps a new Warren Zion Gulag amusement park in some Midwestern locations. Whatever.
Go to the Midwest.
It's always a shifting story, and it will, and the bad stuff that there's always going to be some of these guys, and they're always going to sort of be doing this bad stuff, and you can look away and think that you've solved it by reporting on one prosecution, and it just means they've gone off into another location in another secret corner, and they're doing it again.
A couple questions for the law enforcement down in Texas at the prison that Warren's in. Why is he able to do all this? Maybe do your job a little bit better.
And I don't know what the restrictions they have, but it does seem I've heard
he's
about.
He's a pedophile.
Well, and I've heard about mafia bosses who are getting messages out, and they deep six them somewhere so they can't have communications with the outside world. These are certainly stories I've heard about in prison, but yeah, that's another issue that he just
is able to do this.
He might as well. He might as well. He can talk so much in the media. We got to get Warren on the show. We got to
little Zoom call with Uncle Warren.
Yeah, come on, dude. I know.
Come on, brother.
Yeah. So anyhow, standing invitation. Helaman, you want to ever do a show with us? Sam.
Helaman might do the Lord's work and take you out. So.
Oh yeah, well thanks for dropping that in there. Okay, but
what?
Yeah, but it's true.
His dad's the one that put a hit on you. Let him do it.
Yeah. and I'm very proud of that. He spoke very harshly of me and my friend Gary Engels, who was a law officer and investigator early on in this drama, and I was flattered to be like being included with the Queen. I was very flattered to be on this hit list with Gary Engels because he's one of the stand-up guys in this story. I just spoke to him. I've been speaking to him over the course of the couple of weeks, but lots going on. Revelations, documentaries, renegades getting busted, 17-year-old girls getting abducted and brought back to their families, and we're hoping for the best. Wow, I did not think that we'd just focus so heavily on this subject during.
Did you even retire?
Yeah, I don't. That's a profound question. I'm done. I wrote that thing about Sam. People know what I think about him now, and I'm going fishing.
Yeah.
I'm going fishing.
Going dark again.
On that note, my co-host is about to leave me. That's why we have an abbreviated second season with only the 5 episodes, because you're off to play basketball overseas and study to get a master's degree.
That I am doing.
Well, I'm going to miss the hell out of you.
Me too.
I feel bad that we can only kick out 5 episodes, but I think they have been our best. And I appreciate it.
Not that we're biased or anything.
Not that we're biased, yeah. Well, the first season, I insisted on doing it out on the patio, and we had to contend with all the insects that our ring light attracted at night.
Yeah.
And sometimes you could hear the insects way better than you could
And our
hear.
lovely neighbors who gas their trucks late at night.
Yeah, so it was a little noisy out here, but we got our new set. But
There's a lovely cricket in this one.
Is there?
And our little kitty was meowing, so we can never escape the animals.
And just because it is a family show, we want to give a hats off to your mom, my wife, who is the composer of our
the music,
beautiful
our
music,
intro,
our intro,
outro.
and our outro. And I never would have done any of this sort of coverage to the extent I did over the many years without your mother's help and guidance. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful. Yeah. But
Wonderful woman.
signing off, and you be well, and I hope I can get your games on Zoom or some satellite channel.
Not gonna cry.
And we're gonna sign off for Story Hustler, Murder, Mayhem, PTSD. Don't get going on that kind of.
Season 2.
Season 2, abbreviated because of. Yeah, I've been warning people all along. I knew this was short-lived. Too good to last forever. But we'll try to kick out the 3rd season if you and I can ever get in the same time zone together.
Yeah, or Zoom. We'll have some wine nights or something.
Oh, yeah. Well.
Not that you drink.
Well, I may have a tip slump or whatever.
A shandy.
A shandy. So that's what we're maybe giving. We'll have more on her location and
not that anyone cares.
Yeah, well, I care. So
it's
my show. I can do whatever I want.
It's my show.
She is the executive producer. And again, having been put in my place, should we sign off?
Signing off. This is Story Hustler, Murder, Mayhem, PTSD. Murder, Mayhem, PTSD. Season 2.
This is what getting emotional will do. You start to slip.
I started saying season 2 and PTSD at the same time. Season 2 in the books, just
on the books. Read the books.
Read the books. All the books.
Story Hustler on Amazon. You get it there.
We'll link it down below if you're interested.
Yeah. But anyhow, thanks. Really, this has been so interesting to get sucked back into this in such a big way, and I guess. The discouraging thing is it just seems like we've just come full circle.
Well, just in the country too. History is repeating itself and we're letting it and we're not learning.
Yeah.
So I just think that Americans should wake up.
Yeah.
But.
All right.
That's us. Signing off.
Thanks again. Good night, everybody.
Peace.